Now, Mr. Lopez, at the time of the murder, were you friends with Pootie, the person you mentioned earlier? Yes. Do you know his full name? Jamel Davis. Do you know where he lived at the time of the murder? I remember him living at Academy Gardens. Where is that? Across the street from Soundview Projects. Were you close to him? Yes. Did you trust him? Yes. Do you remember calling him the night of the murder? I can't remember. Mr. Lopez, after the shooting of Vincent Davis, did you and Brown have a conversation about it? Yes. When was that conversation approximately? About a week after the shooting. How did that conversation come about? I can't remember if I called him or he called me, and I remember we met up in Baychester area. How did you arrange to be in Baychester? He told me to meet him up. Where did you meet in Baychester? Some block around that area. How did you get there? I drove. What happened when you got there? I met Corey there. What happened when you met him? We both got out of the cars. We left our phones in the cars, and we stepped away from the cars and had a conversation. Why did you leave your phones in the cars? Just in case they was bugged. Whose idea was that? Corey. So what, if anything, did Brown say about that? It is best not to talk in the cars or around the phones because the feds be bugging them, and they can listen to our conversation. What did you understand the feds to mean? Police, law enforcement. So now I want to talk about the conversation you had with him after you put the phones down. What did you discuss? Shooting. What was the first thing that was discussed? He asked me what happened. I told him I shot him. To be clear, you shot whom? Vincent Davis. When you had this conversation, did Brown know about the murder? Yes. How do you know? I can't remember. I just know he knew about it at that time already. So when you said you shot Davis, how did he respond? He was happy. How do you know he was happy? From his demeanor. What about his demeanor made you think he was happy? He told me that it's good. What did you understand that to mean? That he was happy that I shot Venom. Did Brown ask you any questions about the murder? He asked me who was there with me. He asked me about the gun and if anybody saw me. How did you respond when he asked who was there with you? I told him D.O. was there. What did he say? He didn't say anything. He just said, I can't talk about it or let anybody know I did it, and just to stay low-key. What did you understand him to mean when he said to stay low-key? Just don't tell nobody I did it, and just try not to come around as much for a little while. Not to come around where? The neighborhood. Which neighborhood? Soundview. I believe you said he also asked about the gun? Yes. What did he ask specifically? He asked if I still had the gun, and I told him, yeah. He told me to get rid of it. Where was the gun at that time? At that time, I had the gun. How did you get the gun? Brabs had the gun in his house because he picked it up after D.O. shot himself in the hand. So who did you get the gun from? From Brabs. Do you know how long Brabs had the gun? He had it for maybe a couple days. Where were you keeping the gun? On me. After Brown asked you about the gun, did you do anything about the gun? I got rid of it. What did you do with it? I gave it to Eric Rivera, and he got rid of it for me. Do you know what he did with it? He told me that he threw it in the Hudson River somewhere by the West Side Highway. I believe you also testified that Brown asked if anybody saw you that night. How did you respond? I told him no, just Venom. What did he say? He was like, that's good. What did you understand that to mean? That nobody else saw me, so nobody didn't call for it. During this conversation, Did Brown give you any advice? No, I can't remember. What else, if anything, did he say during the conversation? He told me don't tell anybody about the murder, and he gave me the green light after that and told me I can do whatever I want. Just don't run around saying I'm a big homie, because that is when people would know I was the big homie because I shot Venom. So just stay low for a little while. Let me break that down for a little. First, you said that he gave you the green light? Yes. How did he do that? He just told me I could do what I want now. Just, I can bring other people into the gang, but don't run around saying I'm a big homie or I got any status, because then they are going to know that Corey gave me the status for shooting Venom. Did he say why you could do whatever you wanted now? Because I took care of Venom for him. How, if at all, did this murder affect your status within Sex, Money, and Murder? I was able to bring people into the gang. I was able to get drugs on consignment, and my respect went up. When you say get drugs on consignment, what do you mean by that? I would get drugs for free without paying for them. Who would you get drugs on consignment from? Sometimes I would get drugs from Killer T. Sometimes I would get drugs from the God. What kinds of drugs were you getting? Crack and heroin. We'll get back to the drugs in a little bit more detail later. Going back to how the murder affected your status, I believe you said people showed you more respect. Can you explain that? He told me I'm part of the elite circle now. Who told you that? CB and Killer T. What did it mean to be part of the elite circle? Basically like my family now. Were there certain people that were part of the elite circle? Yes. Who was part of that circle? Me, CB, Killer T, the God, OP, and Sunai, Sunai. You mentioned the God a few times. Who is he? He's another blazer from the Soundview area. Mr. Lopez, I would like to show you what has been marked Government Exhibit 607. Do you recognize the person in that photograph? Yes. Who is that? The God. Is that a fair and accurate depiction of the God? Yes. The government offers Government Exhibit 607 and 607A, the nameplate for the God. Received. Mr. Lopez, you also mentioned Sunai. Who is that? He's another blazer from the neighborhood. Now, before the murder, did you hang out with Killer T? No. Did you hang out with Sunai? No. Did you hang out with the God? No. Did you hang out with them afterwards? Yes. How often? A few days out of the week. And I believe you said Brown was in the inner circle. Is that right? Yes. How often did you see Brown before the murder? Maybe a couple times. Once or twice out of the week. Once a week. And what about after the murder? Started hanging out with him a lot more. So did your relationship change? Yes. Could you explain? We got closer. He used to call me like his little brother. Now, Mr. Lopez, I believe you said you were given the green light after the murder. Did you bring anyone into the gang? Yes. Who did you bring into the gang? I brought in Jamel Davis. Is that Pootie? Yes. And when did you bring Pootie into the gang? Around 2013. Mr. Lopez, I'm going to show you what has been marked as Government Exhibit 614. Do you recognize the person in that photograph? Yes. Who is that? Jamel Davis. Is that a fair and accurate depiction of Jamel Davis? Yes. The government offers Government Exhibit 614 and 614A and B, the nameplates. Received. We will now publish those to the board. Mr. Lopez, do you know how old Corey Brown is generally? I know he is about 10 years older than me. What about Killer T? He's about 10 years older than me. What about the God? The same. Sunai? They all about 10 years older than me. And how old are you? 26. Now, Mr. Lopez, going back to the green light you got after the murder, Did you bring anybody into the gang other than Jamel Davis? I brought in a dude named Wes that I met in prison, and this dude named Jimmy I met in prison. Where did you meet Jimmy? While I was upstate in prison. When did you meet Jimmy approximately? Around 2014. Yeah, 2014, 2015. How did you meet him in prison? He was housed in the same area. Yeah, housed in the same area. And how did you meet Wes? He was from the Soundview area, and we ended up being in the same prison. What prison was that? Hudson Correctional Facility. Mr. Lopez, did Corey Brown's reputation change after the murder? Yes. How so? People respected him more. They felt like he took care of his business, so he got his respect back. What makes you say people respected him more? Before the murder, they was kind of saying he was washed up and he fell off. And after, they felt like he still had it and he did something back. When you say they, who are you referring to generally? Other Blazers. And I believe you said that people felt like he took care of his business. What did you mean by that? Venom cut him, and he killed him after. Did Brown ever comment on his status to you after the murder? He would just say he's a big homie, and we untouchable. We don't have to worry about nothing. What did you understand him to mean when he said we're untouchable? That nobody is gonna mess with us, that we was on top of everybody. And just to be clear, who is the we you are referring to? Me and him.